Finally, there it is, the long-awaited pro and con video comparing iRacing to Project Cars. Hello and welcome fellow subscribers and other racing fans. First of all, this video won't be a bashing video bashing any of the two sims like other YouTubers did in the past. It will contain my personal opinion as well as some objective observations and should therefore help to make up your own mind, to build up your own opinion on the subject. And please note, all my points are taken in the regard of online multiplayer experience and racing with other people around the world in general. I don't take into account single player racing, AI or career features. Reason for that is just my personal opinion that when I going out to race, I want to race other drivers, no artificial drivers, as well as no timers. So time trial is also not what I want to have from a racing game. So let's get started with some positive, the pros for iRacing in comparison to Project Cars. Matchmaking. iRacing has a working matchmaking. How do they do it? Well, you get a rating according to your strength as a race driver, the so-called iRating. You get or lose points at the end of a race, which represent your strength within the field. So if your iRating is quite high and you should be able to finish on the podium, but you only get P10, you will lose points. The other way around, you will get many points. That leads, after everything has settled in, to interesting races, because you will always be paired with similar strong drivers. Of course, only when there are enough drivers in the race. That mostly leads to cleaner races, better fights and fuller crits. Downside of this, if you have a friend, he might not be in your race although you're registered at the same time for the same race, just because there are several crits and he might have lower iRating and therefore got put into another crit which is racing parallel on the same time. Second point, the series system online. There might not be too many series, although there are plenty. However, being able to choose between series like Plan series or Roof Cup or any of the Formula series makes it look very special and motorsporty, if that's a word. It feels professional, and it kind of is, because maybe some people are only driving this series, some people are driving all series, you have professionals of one series, you have all-rounders and stuff like that. It's a whole ecosystem which developed out of this system. It is like a second life of motorsports. Downside of this, of course, it can get boring, but I think iRacing will exchange some series from time to time. Next point, tracks. As you all know, iRacing tracks are laser scanned. I mean, if the quality of a normally done track is okay, then I couldn't care less about a laser scan. But iRacing tracks are quality work. Everything looks like it's on the right place. The track geometry is always correct. It is very important on some tracks that corners are hanging to the outside or the other way around, so you can go faster through them. This is something Project Cars is missing on some tracks, and even on the laser scan tracks in Project Cars, I sometimes don't really believe the realism of it. I mean, if you take Brands Hatch, if you drive over curbs there in Project Cars, it feels like you would drive over a wooden bridge with, well, made out of logs or something like that. And it feels like your car would be torn apart every moment. Sometimes I suspect a laser scanned and very detailed track in Project Cars is something the game engine cannot handle correctly. On tracks that are not laser scanned in Project Cars, I feel like the track geometry sometimes is way off. For example, at Sonoma, there are passages like the downhill left-hander carousel corner, which makes the car bottoming out for at least 15 meters. Again, not sure if it's the track's fault or the game engine's fault, but it feels like the track is not detailed, not realistic enough. So big plus for iRacing here. So let's get a little bit more to the cars and how the cars feel, the car handling. And one point I think which is a big plus for iRacing, the grip transitions. Although car behaviors seem to be about the same, I will come back to that later, the transitions between grip and no grip situations, and also especially the grip differences between fresh and worn tires, are better modeled in iRacing. If you drive any GT3 car or maybe also the Cadillac car in iRacing, you can really well feel that you have all the grip in the first 2 or 3 laps. It feels almighty almost. And after that, the grip is gone. It is not there anymore. However, the car gets more consistent and more predictable. With all the grip in the beginning, the car is dangerous because the grip can go away from now to then. This is the thing which was addressed in Project Cars forums from the beginning, and I know maybe it was Andrew, maybe it was Casey, some of the SMS developers say they are doing the same in Project Cars, because that is realistic behavior and the devs know about it, and I think they also implemented it quite well into Project Cars. However, for some reason I can't feel it as naturally in Project Cars. I mean, I know it's there, however the transition from grip to no grip doesn't feel as natural and cannot be felt as good. It's just something somewhere between car physics and force feedback, where it is just not giving all the information you have in iRacing. iRacing is less dangerous. I mean, as you all know, driving on the limit, driving on the edge is always dangerous. Every little bump can kill you, as I nicely showed during the 24 hours of Daytona. However, car physics in iRacing are better predictable. In Project Cars, you're sometimes driving over a curb and the car just spins around on a hot, dry track where you have all the grip. You're hitting the curb a little bit and off you go. For what reason? You don't know afterwards and you're frustrated. In iRacing that can happen as well, but then it announces itself. You see it coming, you know if you hit that curb or if you hit that bump the wrong way, you will be sent into the wall. It's not as unpredictable. Also, braking seems safer in iRacing, however, I'm not sure about the reasons of that. It can well be that something is not fully simulated in iRacing, which might be in Project Cars like brake wear. However, what I want to tell you is in iRacing most of the time braking leads to understeer if you do it wrong. There are no snap oversteer situations most of the time, and more braking doesn't get you better braking. However, on the downside, There is something in iRacing which I don't really get, and it is trail braking. It is just not possible. Which seems strange because real life drivers tend to trail brake into corners where it is faster. However, in iRacing the front tires seem to be completely overloaded with that, and you're just understeering away. Well, so much to the physics. Something to force feedback will come in the cons part, in the contra part. So what about the things a gamer needs? The HUD, the HUD, the overlay. It is a system which simply works, which has elements that work, and they are great. You do have a timer element which shows you exactly where you are faster and where you are slower. You can choose any reference you want to have. It is refreshing faster than you can look. You can really improve your lap times with it. You can use a ghost car, you don't need to. You have optimal lap times refreshed live. You have, well, it might be a little bit unrealistic, but you have more sectors per lap, so it's better to see in which corners you lose and in which you gain. And this is something which is kind of there in Project Cars, but for example in multiplayer it is not really working, and it doesn't have any comfort. It is hard to read. It is just plain worse. As well as you might know it from gameplay videos, the relative screen. On the bottom right, on default, it hangs there and shows you the cars around you on track. It shows which class they are. It shows if they are a lap up or a lap down. It shows how far away they are. It shows which car number they have. It shows which position they are in class. You need that. You need that really badly during a proper race, during a multi-class race, the more. And this is something completely missing in Project Cars. You have the guy in front and you have the guy behind on your HUD, but no information whatsoever. You don't even know when a lapped car is coming, because it just shows you the car behind you, which is a position behind you, not on track behind you. It is kind of useless in Project Cars. And this is a feature in iRacing which really enables you the multiplayer experience we all deserve. Also together with that, you have team radio. You have a screen where you can adjust pit settings on the fly. You have standings, you have in-car adjustments and other stuff. Everything you need for multiplayer online racing. I know some of this stuff will never come to Project Cars or Project Cars 2 because it's a design decision, like in-car adjustments. They shall only remain as pop-ups when you change them. I don't think it's the best idea. You see, this is a topic where iRacing really shines. And it continues. Setup saving. You save setups under a name. You can name it like you want. You can share setups within a session, or you just share the files with each other out of the game. It's working. It's just working. You can also save an infinite count of setups. But wait, there's more. Driver swap feature. It was promised for Project Cars at some point, and I think it's there in single player, so in longer races you can have the AI take over your car. But as I stated above, or before is better, that doesn't matter too much to me, because who wants to race an endurance race against AI and with AI? Where's the fun behind that? And where's the pit stops in Project Cars? I mean proper pit stops. The car is driven through the pits by the AI. There is so much which can go wrong with that, or the other way around. There is so much that can wrong with if you drive the car yourself. Now what about the setups itself? While seeing iRacing setups, they seem much more difficult. because they are done on the live car which is standing on the ground. So that means if you change anything on the setups, it will influence the other settings live. This is kind of overwhelming at first. However, I think it enables you a better understanding of the setup, because there is just more transparency on which settings influence other settings. However, downside, you have to be more a mechanic than a race driver, which is maybe not the point of a racing sim, because you want to have the people driving the car and not setting it up for hours and hours and hours. However, as a sim driver, we are kind of used to do that stuff, and I think it belongs to a sim at this point. And then there's something less obvious. The livery system works. You can choose a livery for your car and it will be applied and it is just there. However, if you want to have custom paints on your car, you need an additional tool which is called trading paints. And I'm not the biggest fan of having additional tools running in the background during your sim racing. And it also crashed during my 24-hour race, which is not the nicest experience you have. You don't want to have a program crashing in the background when you're driving a long endurance race. And now the last point, which is really something very important. Well, maybe you don't see it as important as it is, but it is. In the end, it helps you very much. It is the replay system. It is wonderfully set up. It is a proper and outstanding replay system. Although the controls seem to be a bit antique and there could be more options to scroll through a race, for example, but having a replay system which works instantly or also can be saved and reviewed later is a must-have for online multiplayer racing. There's an incident which took you out of the race, no problem. Just go into the replay, you hit the rewind button and you just watch it, and you can watch it infinite times. You can save it. You can do everything you want with that. You can save it as a file which you can later send everywhere you want to have it. If you watch Project Cars in comparison to that, what you get? Broken replays. Cars in the replay which didn't even race. No proper controls. No real fast forward or rewind features. You can't even jump to a certain lap or something like that. At this point, iRacing shines the most for me. It is such a useful thing, and every sim should have a feature like that. At this point, I see we are already at 18 minutes of video length, and I didn't plan to make such a long video. So here you go with the pros of iRacing in comparison to Project Cars, and I will make a short cut and come back to you with the contra points, the cons. So see you in the following video and bye bye.